last minute of your life, you want to be something more than a goddamn savage! So we're not as hard, don't you say? Pronunciare negaccio. Ego sum homo indomitus. You like this? Oh, you like being food for the immortal?
What is happening, savages? You are listening to the voice of Immortal Coil, your future minister of whiskey mysticism. Revolution is my name, and I'm not too sure about this intro anymore. I might have to tender an edit, and I'll be happy to tell you why as the show goes on. It is Wednesday, the 22nd of December. Fuck that van. 6:46 p.m. $6:47 Pacific Standard Time, and it is time to get goddamn savage. It is time to get some goddamn tech support. Joining us today, we got the Random Brad creator. He's catching the show later. He's got streams running. That's cool. We got the mighty Wookiee Supremacy, Hail Coil. And everybody joining us from the Sporking News Wednesday night dump. Whether you're watching live or you're watching on the replay, hail, my savage friends. Join me in the savage salute. Lift high, whatever it is you are imbibing. And join us. Here's to us. What is like us? Not a goddamn thing. It's like anger. I am angry tonight. There is some light on the horizon, but I do have quite an amount of vitriol inside me, needing to explode outwards. There is some fucky things going on in pulp culture. Some fucky things going on in entertainment. Some of these things will not surprise you. Some of these things are pissing you off as well. I know it. That is why we are together tonight, my friends. Before we get started, I want to let you know that the Savage Show is not for children. This broadcast will contain strong language, sensitive subject matter, images, and content intended for a mature 18 or older audience. Viewer discretion is advised. This video does contain copywritten content. However, under the Fair Use Act, Section 504C2, Title 17 of the U.S. Code, this content is presented for the purposes of education and entertainment through the use of parody, satire, critique, analysis, and/or social commentary by means of subjective opinion. That means you will hear some fuck words tonight. But nobody on this channel is a doctor or lawyer, so legal and medical advice should best be left to professionals. With that out of the way, let's get started. The Matrix is pissing me off, but I did see something that pisses me off even more. This is something that just came down the pike in the last couple, little like fucking day or so. This is going to be from the Marvel side of things, and this is not necessarily The Spider-Man thing. No, we will get to Spider-Man in good time. We're going to talk about Frank Castle, the Punisher. Okay. Frank Castle, a United States Marine. Frank Castle, who is not showing up on my screen. God damn it. Where is my technical support? Where are my geeks? Frank fucking Castle. There he is. Marvel changes the Punisher into a vagina. Yes, he is. What does that mean? Where the fuck are you finding these things, Immortal Coil? You might say to yourself. This is coming from Cosmic Book News. Not a place that I frequent with any sort of regular occurrence, but I cannot argue with this title. This is coming in from Matt McGlowan. Matt McGlowan is a good author. I do like his stuff I've read in the past. This just goes to show you how insane Disney is and the people that run and work at Marvel Comics as the Punisher logo. The Punisher logo has been changed into some sort of demon-shaped vagina form. And we will see that in a little while, and I will give you my thoughts on that. On Monday, Marvel Comics announced a new Punisher comic book series from writer Jason Aaron, with art by Jesus Science and Paul Esposito, where art features a new logo for Frank Castle, the Punisher. The Punisher. Marvel also bills the series as, quote, oversized to explore the past, present, and future of Frank Castle's character and reveal where his motivations truly lie. And that it will mark the definitive culmination of Frank Castle's journey in the Marvel Universe to date, building on his path to reveal his inescapable future. God, that verbiage just fucking makes the jugular want to leap out of my neck. So just like the logo, Matt McGlowan continues, it sounds like big changes are in store for the character. Regarding the new logo, it appears to go with Frank Castle joining a bunch of ninjas and dropping the use of guns, and fitting with the demon theme, Frank now serves the beast, a role he's been fated to fulfill. Now we're going to blow this up, okay? I thought for some reason that this was something that Ethan Van Sciver made up, but apparently he didn't. Ethan Van Sciver runs the Comic Gate fucking chat for all intensive purposes. Not the leader of Comicsgate, just probably one of the noisier voices. And love him or hate him, he did change the industry. And some of the shit he says is spot fucking on, including this thing. Okay. We can see here on the far left. Did you get that? That's a joke. On the far left, we have the new stylized Punisher logo for at least this run that they're trying to give us. Later in their article, they'll explain that the Punisher is working for the Red Hand, for the Beast, all this stuff. So, in line with that in-world explanation, we will get to the real-world explanations here in just a moment. We do want to say hail to Daytona Falls. You can't ruin the Punisher. You know how many fucking Marines are going to be pissed off at this? And you want to piss off you? Okay, I'll tell you this. You give a Marine some ibuprofen, some crayons, and a fucking saw, and they will take over anything you ask them to take over. That is just how hard fucking core Marines are. Frank Castle was a Marine in Marvel continuity prior to this fucking bullshit. Frank Castle was a Marine. He was trained to kill. He was watch fucking Full Metal Jacket. That happened to Frank Castle. and then somebody killed his family and he fucking lost it. That whole like Rambo First Blood, the first movie, that's the sort of thing they're talking about. Frank Castle has a particular set of skills. His family is wasted. So Frank Castle goes on a fucking vigilante spree because nobody else is going to stand up and do the right thing. I firmly believe this. Some actions will revoke your life, will revoke your right and your ability to live on this planet. Okay? Now, I'm going to fucking turn on the camera for a sec because I want to show you guys something. Okay? I carry with me many kinds of trinkets. Okay? It's my fucking car keys, right? I got the Millennium Falcon. That's my joke. That's the keys to the Falcon. It's also a beer bottle opener. But right here, I got a key fob. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is a stylized Punisher logo. But on the side, you'll see a 1911, two 1911s with bayonet attachments. Okay. I got this from a dude on Instagram. Anos is honor. This is also a collaboration with Savoy Leather, who makes gun leather. And I have had this key fob since like 2012. The Punisher fucking means something. Okay. We will get into that as the article goes on because we're going to talk about Chris Kyle tonight, the American Sniper. And so many service members who put the Punisher's logo on their shields as they go out there and do the fucking shit that no one else will do. Okay. My fucking tirade. So if we look on the far left, we see the new stylized logo, which we are told the Punisher adopts when he serves the Beast, when he serves the Hand, made famous in Wolverine comics. Now, I find it funny. Punisher has no qualms about taking life. Wolverine, no qualms about taking life. But suddenly Disney fucking buys out Marvel Comics and all these things that are iffy and all this shit they want to fuck with. So they're scared that the Punisher is going to represent crooked cops or white supremacists or something along those lines. So they have to make him cuddlier and fluffier. Wolverine, they're trying to make him one of the alphabet people now, which he never was. His son was, I'll give you that. Maybe Laura Kinney had to do some shit when she was selling her snatch, but not Wolverine, not Papa Wolverine. No. He's after Jean Grey. He's after Storm. He's after Mystique. He has a thing for redheads. So then in the middle graphic here, we see that they've flipped the skull upside down. And then for emphasis on the right, you see what looks like a woman holding down a man in the Amazon position. Do you know what the Amazon position is? Pornhub knows what the Amazon position is. Now, look, I'm not going to get on you guys for however you want to fuck. However you want to fuck is however you want to fuck, okay? Whoever you want to fuck is up to consenting adults. There will be no illegal shit here, or I will send Frank Castle after you. But for those of you who don't know, the Amazon position has a man on his back and he's rolled over. The woman traps him behind his behind his knees. And she is on top of him and she is controlling things. Okay? Now, I'm not saying like once in a while, sure, try something new. But that is a sign of the matriarchy. It's a sign that shows where they want their ideal of what men should be. Get on your back, be subservient, open your asshole, let this woman Amazon dominate you. Amazon.com. We got Daytona Falls coming in saying too much love of the skull at this point. Everyone checks out. Fuck them. Let them suffer and die without feeling like they got for our feels. Also tossing in, soldiers and Marines don't care what Marvel does anymore. We have the OG. You know, and it's going to come down to that. Marvel is going to get so fucking weird about this shit that they're going to lose the support of the people who have traditionally backed them. People like the Marines, people like the Navy SEALs, the door kickers, the people who want to do shit that nobody else wants to do. Okay. Back to the article. The comic book industry is mentally ill, says Ethan Van Sciver. Former DC Comics artist, he also worked for Marvel as well. Ethan Van Sciver, who can be argued has insights into art that most folks don't have, pointed out the look of the new Punisher logo above on his popular Comic Artist Pro Secrets YouTube channel, where the logo looks like a behind shot of a woman on all fours, which would be from the viewpoint of the Punisher looking down at his chest. Amazon position, right? This is a quote from Ethan. The problem is that nobody reads Marvel Comics right now, so it doesn't really matter what current Punisher does. This is what these clowns don't understand. The old comics exist. You want to go back and remove every single old Punisher comic from the beginning of time. People will still use the classic Punisher symbol. And what it will be saying is the old Punisher is badass. The old Marvel is badass. And there is nothing SJWs can do about that. Van Sciver continues. They can launch this new version of Punisher. It will fail. Fans of the Punisher aren't going to buy it. The old stuff exists, Marvel. You can't wipe it out. The good stuff is still out there. You cannot destroy comics completely. You know you want to. Ethan Van Sciver adds that since the Punisher is liked by the police and the military, that is why Marvel Comics has decided to change things. So the police and military will stop liking the character. Because SJWs don't like the military and they don't like the police. You know why? Because they are being indoctrinated not to. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that there aren't problematic members of the services. Okay? Everybody who's been in the service knows that one asshole that should be put out to pasture through his asshole with a rusty spike. Okay? But you cannot unilaterally say that every service member falls into this twisted fucking thing that only a couple of assholes have been found guilty of. It's just not. That's as stupid as saying all white men are this and that and the other thing. That's too much generalization. But what it really is that the ability to resist, the ability to own your own patch of ground in America or on your block is under attack. The police are being militarized and people are being taught not to trust. Okay. Now, furthermore, you got the George Soros's, the George Sorosai, Cersei, the fucking shame bitch. Now, George Soros, former Hitler Youth, funding things like Antifa, funding things like Black Lives Matter, who will come in and destroy your neighborhood, fresh behind radical law changes which decrease police presence. So you create a villain of police in the media. You get people scared and you get them to say, well, we don't need this kind of policing. Then the police go away and then criminal element destroys the cities. People like Kyle Rittenhouse want to stand up, protect his neighborhood, protect his family. You give him hell in the media. This is fucked up. This is the definition of social engineering. The definition. Frank Castle has a very extreme sense of justice. But it's kind of like that show Dexter. He goes after serial killers and people who would hurt puppies and babies and small children and generally make life miserable for normal, upstanding people. Is it okay if he kills those people? I'm tending to think so. If you kill a pedophile, I'm not going to stop you. Same thing with Frank Castle. Now, part of his story arc and part of his character does help other superheroes and people in those positions consider their moral stances on killing. That's a useful plot device, but you can't, or you shouldn't be allowed to change a character with 50 years of history just because you have a problem with the idea of police or the idea of military. God damn it. That's why they did it too. They're like, this is harmful material. This is Ethan Van Sciver's quote. We must get rid of it so nobody can read it and be influenced by it and become the Punisher, explains Van Sciver. I mean, these are not real problems. The comic book industry is mentally ill. It just is mentally ill. It's not a real problem. It's just people enjoying things, people having fun. If you wear a John Wick t-shirt, it doesn't mean you are going to go out there and shoot a million people over your dog. It's just fun, man. It's so depressing that the comic book industry wants to lecture people and hector people and give them a hard time for just enjoying comics. You are not the right person and you don't get to enjoy the comics because you are a police officer. It means you don't get to like the Punisher. You are not allowed this because of this and this and this. We hate you anyway, but we are going to change the Punisher just to spite you so you can't like it. You can't stop people from liking the Punisher. They are still going to like the Punisher. They are just not going to like this. And this is hilarious anyway, says Van Sciver. Worth a mention is that actor John Bernthal has also questioned the future of the Punisher at Marvel. Okay. Now, this is an important point. Escapism is a necessary thing for the stresses that we have in life, and extreme characters can help us work through the stress that exists in our psyches. Because most of us, savage though we may be, aren't simply going to quit life and grab a gun and go and start to do what probably should be done. We still have families. We still have things that we're trying to do. If I was out there doing everything I think I should do, I probably wouldn't be on the microphone buttering up your ears at this juncture. Okay. So as we go through our stresses, and especially you want to talk about masculinity and all this shit, the male animal has a certain amount of territorialism about it. He has a certain amount of sexual desire. He has a certain amount of predator. Okay, now that's not saying that he can't be a philosopher or a priest, but it's like part warrior, part philosopher, part priest. You cannot ignore any of these components, and you do have to do something to transmute these energies. Okay, for me, training martial arts and getting good at, guns and knives and shit like that is part of how I exercise that masculine drive. Okay, you have to have some sort of physical outlet, or that side of you, that aspect of your psyche, will become unbalanced. And when things become unbalanced or repressed, it comes out in fucky ways. Same thing, sexual frustration is a big thing. If males can't mate somehow, then it comes out sideways. And I think a lot of this beta male anger is fueled over the inability to mate. Okay, it's the same reason why you can't just leave your dog's balls attached and never allow him the chance to mate. That is frustrating. You wouldn't do that to your best friend, would you? Would you? Fuck no. Fuck no. We got Parrot Head. The third message is we hate you, give us your money. Yeah. And this is the get woke, go broke model. They yell at us because we are doing something wrong in the world. Then they make this bullshit that they disguise as entertainment And then they yell at us for not buying it. And we're like, well, we thought we weren't your audience. Well, you shouldn't buy this because you're bigoted. Well, how come you're not buying this? You must be a bigot. No, this is not a sustainable business model. You can't put your bullshit worldview into our comics and then hope that, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I should buy this bullshit because, I don't know, maybe it would be funny if Wolverine fucked Cyclops. No, it's not funny. No more funny than, I don't know, would you allow me to talk shit about George Washington? Fuck no. Fuck no. Wook saying the Punisher skull was used in a lot of MAGA stuff. The left feels, if the left feels anything, no matter how minor, associated with the Trump, it absolutely needs to be destroyed. That's why they're doing this to the Punisher. And we shouldn't neglect the fact that there are crisis actors that they hire to run around and do this stuff and perpetrate false flag events. Okay. We know from photographic evidence that the people at the January 6th fucking Capitol thing, there was only probably about 13 to 50 of these motherfuckers. They were given wide berth by the police. Some of them are probably wearing Punisher logos. Some of them are probably wearing MAGA gear. But that was completely used as an excuse for the SJW-crats to lose their minds and say things like, even though I wasn't in the same city, I knew that I was in danger of being raped. Right? Because these extremes of emotionalism are what they are appealing to. They want everybody to be so in their survival instincts and in their emotions of hatred and victimization that they submit to whatever the program may be. It's bullshit. And then when people like Frank Castle come along, the actual Frank Castle, who is a man willing to say that I don't like this. I don't like the way that the world is. There are certain bad pieces of trash humans. And I'm not talking about people you disagree with politically. I'm talking about people who hurt children, people who kill because they enjoy it, people who exploit, people who make it harder for their neighbors to get along just because they fear their opportunity to climb higher in this sick pyramid scheme. Marvel Comics, Punisher #1. Okay, here's some of the scenes. And we're not getting any of the story here. This is just the pencils and inks and all that. So you can see he's in Japan. He's getting off the fucking Red Hand helicopter. He has his Amazon position woman on his chest. He's got some ninja swords. So the Punisher, Frank Castle is Leonardo in New Marvel. Okay. This fucking old lady, Red Hand. I don't know. She's like, come in here, little boy. There's the city. You can see him in his old fucking outfit. He's got his guns on the wall. He's got his like heating unit over there, and he's like, I don't like my shirt anymore. I'm just gonna go to Japan and start all over. And it's insane. Frank Castle should represent the hardest of core motherfuckers, the savagest of savage. And they're going to make him into some sort of like fucking bitch boy who probably needs to be saved by the brave new female Marines or something like that. And look, I'm not knocking female Marines. If you can fucking hack it and carry your weight and all that shit, go kick down some doors. But I'm saying that they are going to paint a picture of Frank Castle in order to communicate their perceptions of what the military in general, and I suppose Marines in particular, are. And this is what's fucked up is I can guarantee you that the amount of comic book writers and artists, if you want to call them that, working in the modern SJW field, how many of those people fucking wrote that blank check? How many of those people went and joined the service, got shipped off to some fucking shithole, and had to make that choice? Do I take a life? How do I get my buddy out of here? All that kind of shit. Frank Castle, the Punisher. His old uniform being torn to tatters. I don't know, and every now and then Marvel likes to do these stories where maybe in the story somewhere Frank Castle got possessed by a demon. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know. We're gonna take a look at this other story real fast. And this is along the same sort of line. Just because it shows a little bit more. So there's the old stylized logo, the logo that we love. This is the best Punisher logo. And then here's this fucking Amazon woman. This is from The Bleeding Fool. This is by Chris Braley. December 21st, solstice, yesterday. Yesterday, Marvel Comics announced the next all-new Punisher would be written by Jason Aaron. Okay, so it's going to lay this out, but what I'm looking for out of this article are some of the pull quotes. Okay, here's Family Dollar Chiwetel for a blue check mark. Okay, I don't say this lightly. It's time for at Marvel to put the Punisher out to pasture. The concept is corrupted. Justin Browning at Inane Geek says, can't agree with this. If you feel the Punisher needs to be canceled, you obviously haven't read and understood the Punisher. Okay. The article continues. Jerry Conway, Ross Andrew, Frank Giacoia, I hope I'm saying that right, and David Hunt introduced the Punisher nearly 5 decades ago in Amazing Spider-Man number 129. The new series will hit stands in March 2020 and feature 13 oversized issues that run monthly until the character's 50th anniversary. Since his first appearance in 1973, the Punisher has increased in popularity, but only in recent years has he been considered one of the more controversial characters in comics. We have this tweet from Comic Tropes at C Tropes, January 6, 2021. The seditionists that invaded the Capitol today wore a Punisher logo. I say at Marvel needs to either aggressively enforce their trademark so it isn't printed anywhere or abandon the Punisher completely. You can't allow your characters to be used by terrorists. Okay? Now, we just talked about this. Crisis actors are not real Punisher fans. I guarantee it. They probably call him Skull Guy thingy. They don't know his real name. They don't know who Frank Castle is. They probably don't even know who Dolph Lundgren is. They probably also don't know that that is one of the best John Travolta deaths I've ever seen. And John Travolta is not high on my priority list. Right? Brutal Morningwood. If one of them had Scooby-Doo on their t-shirt, they'd be going after him too. Yeah. So, I mean, that's like a thing. If you have an agenda like this and you want certain results, it's called the problem, reaction, solution pyramid. You have a solution that you want implemented. So you create a problem. And then the solution for that problem is the policy that you want implemented. So I don't like the Punisher. I don't like that it empowers military and police officers. So let's send out some crisis actors and put the Punisher logo on it. And then we'll have a reason to ban him. Frank Castle says Daytona Falls is the OG hard case badass motherfucker. Well, yeah, he's a goddamn Marine. He is a goddamn Marine. A man destroys evil wherever it rears its head. Absolutely, sir. That is the savage spirituality right there. He also says, I can use a spray can stencil of the Punisher skull all you want. Absolutely. And this is the thing, the social engineers from their from their ivory towers are going to attempt to ascribe certain meaning to popular culture symbolism. Now it's not a hidden fact to anybody listening to this broadcast. I had a very good show with Walton yesterday, where we started talking about some of the off-color topics. Okay, talking about extraterrestrial intelligence. We started talking about uh, ancient structures, hidden powers, lost technology, all that kind of stuff. The Illuminati, for a lack of a better word, communicate to each other through symbology. So symbology is very powerful. It talks to archetypes in the human brain that are older than our fucking neo-cerebral cortex. Okay. The parts that are concerned with ritual, with religious ideas, with identity, right, is also deeply symbolic and deeply rooted in survival mechanisms. And they know that. They know this about human physiology. They know this about biology. They know this about psychology. That is why they attempt to manipulate us along these levels. So if I show you a Punisher skull and tell you somebody like Chris Kyle wore it as he was taking out bad guys, and that they used the Punisher logo to communicate very certain things to their enemies, then you will have one understanding of it. But then if the media, or God's sakes, Marvel, Disney comes in and says this skull actually doesn't represent that, it represents something even more nefarious. It represents vigilantism. It represents corrupt police. It represents far right radicals who would storm our nation's capital. We got to do something about those bad seeds. I don't know why I gave it a southern accent. I should probably give it like a New York accent or California accent. And I feel bad for you guys if you're stuck in a place that does not reflect your beliefs. I mean, that's why record numbers of people are moving away from those places. I just read an article about how red states are growing in population and business while blue states are not. Now, before I get too far into that, I want to let you guys know that this isn't just a simple matter of red and blue. That is the trap right there. What it is an attack on human sovereignty, your ability to determine your own destiny. That is what is under attack. Your choice in the matter to become the type of person you want to be. And they're using scare tactics to scare you into one of these pre-created groups. That's just complete bullshit. That's the illusion. Stand up and man up. It's not a crime to be your own man. You know what I'm talking about? You hear me talking? Carlos loves Peter Parker. Should we abandon the American flag too? The seditionists are also wearing that symbol. Well, they're going to say that American patriotism is they're soon to conflate that with fascism too. I guarantee it. So it says, it looks like Marvel's editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski, may have decided to go along with the woke mob after all. So here we have the Bernthal. Nope. We have the classic Punisher. Nope. And then we have, once again, the Amazon position, Frank Castle. You don't want to see this, son. As a former Marine, the Punisher character is known for pursuing his own brand of justice, murdering criminals that he believes live outside the law. In recent years, Conway has denounced the use of the logo among military and police, saying the popularity of the character by gun-toting soldiers and militiamen is uncomfortable, if not depressing. Now, Conway, I think I might have slipped over that. Jerry Conway, okay, one of the original writers, creators of the Punisher for that Spider-Man issue. Speaking to Time magazine in 2015, Conway said, "I was an anti-war person. I argued against it and certainly wrote against it." Conway, who was 21 years old when he invented the character, at the time he filed for conscientious objector status before being excused from the draft for the Vietnam War on medical grounds. We'd probably be considered the weak-kneed hippies they'd want to punch out. Okay? Now listen, I get that there are some people with moral qualms about any particular war that we might be happen to engage in. Your feeling about the rightness or the wrongness of a conflict like Vietnam is up to you. But this guy was a conscientious objector. He didn't go on medical grounds. And then he came back and wrote a story about a Marine who murders out of a sense of vigilante justice. Did he have an axe to grind? The article continues, perhaps the strangest thing for Conway is how popular the Punisher has become despite the character's moral ambiguity and violent actions. People wearing t-shirts with the skull emblem regularly approach Conway at comic book conventions, proclaiming the Punisher is their favorite character. Well, in my mind, he's not a good guy, says Conway. Eisner-winning writer Mike Barron sees it differently, believing the adoption by military and law enforcement seems more like a natural progression for the character. Unlike Conway, Barron wrote the first 5 years of the character's original ongoing comic series for Marvel, beginning in 1987. Since the Punisher was the most prominent military veteran in comics, Mike frequently spotlighted the Punisher's military service over the course of the 60 or so issues he wrote for Marvel Comics. There's Bernthal right there, the man, the myth, not the legend. The legend was Chris Kyle. Human nature doesn't change, Barron says. The reason that the Punisher was popular is the same reason that a Robin Hood or a Paul Kersey, portrayed by Charles Bronson in the Death Wish series, was popular. People always want a strong protector. It's only in the hermetically sealed world of the woke that a strong protector is offensive. Not only that, but we have a capable, and I'm sorry to say this, white male who is armed and knows how to use it. That is the enemy of social engineering. You can't have that. You can't have strong, healthy, able to resist males in a domination scheme. That's just not going to happen. They are not going to glamorize that. They are not going to popularize that. And it's only in the alternative media where the truth about these types of characters are going to be told. Somebody like Frank Castle. Okay, now we'll just go back to that image for a sec while I lay down some savage spirituality. Somebody like Frank Castle, much like you or me, does not naturally want to go out with a gun and kill. That will only happen when pressed to the absolute necessity. Okay? He didn't ask to go out and become the Punisher any more than he asked that his wife and child were killed. But when that happens, men of good conscience can no longer stand by and watch evil happen. And you can even argue that at that point, maybe there is a sort of there's nothing left to lose mentality that takes over. I don't know. That's one of the things about the Punisher. It lets us look into that uh, PTSD vet sort of psychology as much as Rambo the First Blood did. It asks similar questions. It asks us, what do we do with these people that we train to kill? And it also allows us to ask, what should happen? What really should happen when law fails us? Because there are pieces of shit who professionally get paid to get murderers off the hook or to send innocent people to jail because it would cast the wrong light on rich and powerful entities. Or maybe it would expose, who knows, the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world. Right? Hail Mike Barron, indeed. Mods need to get this motherfucker. A man never lets his memories vex him for very long. Commit to the bit or don't. Okay. Human nature doesn't change. The reason the Punisher is popular. Okay, we just went over that. During the period Barron wrote the character, the Punisher became incredibly popular. Mike even recalls that the first fan letter from an active serviceman came in Punisher number 8, in a note mostly talking about the choice of weapons that the Punisher used. Okay. This is a very poor quality reprint here. It says, Dear Sirs, I have just read Punisher number 4. I thought I'd write to tell you how much I enjoy the book. Thank you for showing that Frank Castle is human by allowing him to become a wounded man in his business. Can't make the right moves all the time. I also beg to differ with the gentleman who made the comment regarding the incorrect application of your choice of weapons. Actually, the Striker 12, as well as any other weapon that is manufactured in an auto-loading mode, be it pistol or rifle, has the potential to be converted into a machine gun. This is true. You can convert handguns quite easily too. I wouldn't recommend it because full auto is not always the best application, is it? There are certain alterations made to the bolt trigger assembly that would allow the operator of the weapon to expend the entire magazine should the trigger be held depressed at once. Shotguns like the Striker 12 could be used under extreme tactical circumstances, such as by the infantry in Vietnam, where Frank Castle has seen duty and has probably gained experience in the use and conversion of such a weapon. One last note on arms. I want to commend you on the Punisher's choice of a 9mm pistol instead of a 45 caliber handgun. I'm a 1911 guy, but hey, do what you do. Somebody at Marvel must know something about firearms. The U.S. Army has recently adopted the weapon, and various large police departments have chosen this firearm as their duty pistol. I don't want to harp on that too much, but the politics behind the adoption of the Beretta as the official sidearm over the Colt 45 is dubious. But we'll talk about that some other time. At any rate, you people are doing a great job. Please continue to do so, and I will be awaiting the next issue of The Punisher, Melvin A. Amante. To which Marvel of the time says, well, Melvin, if Frank Castle, your friendly neighborhood Punisher, gets any more chances to prove how human he is, we'll have to start publishing his book posthumously. Excuse me. Gotta wet my whistle. Baron adds, I'm very happy and proud that our nation's defenders use the logo, and I encourage them to do so. Chris Kyle, here he is, American Sniper himself. The book was better than the movie, and actually there are plenty of Chris Kyle lectures still on YouTube. Stand-up guy, been through a lot before he was finally murdered. Famously adopted the Punisher logo. Chris Kyle, the late Navy SEAL whose autobiography, American Sniper, was later adapted by Clint Eastwood, who discussed the use of the logo by the U.S. military. Kyle said he and his fellow servicemen and women embraced the Punisher during their time in Iraq because the character, quote, righted wrongs. He killed bad guys. He made wrongdoers fear him. We spray painted the Punisher logo on our Hummers and body armor and our helmets and our guns. We spray painted it on every building or wall we could. We wanted our enemies to know we're here and we want to fuck with you. That's a still from the movie. Okay. So suffice it to say, you can't fuck with the Punisher. The in-world reason is going to be that the Punisher is working under the Beast for the Hand. Now, I think this is probably going to be some sort of mind control or something like that, but I guess people are going to end up voting for their wallets whether this succeeds or not. Marvel has an agenda. They don't like the Punisher. They don't like what he stands for. So, yeah. All right. That's enough of that. Get that shit off my screen. Shit. Need more mods, huh? All right. I guess it might be time. I thought I did have a man on this, but I guess it is what it is, right? Let's see. Well, you know what, Parrot Head, I do like you, so maybe I'll anoint you. All right. There you go, Parrot Head. Take care of the bots for me. Take care of the bots. Okay. The next thing that deserves my ire is this thing, The Matrix Resurrections. Now, this movie is streaming on HBO. I do not recommend that you go and pay for it in the theater because this is not the Matrix that you remember. This Matrix is clearly grinding a political axe. This is from Spencer Bakuli from yesterday, December 21st. The Matrix Resurrections writers reveal the film seeks to reclaim the red pill after it was kidnapped by the right wing. Okay? So right away, we know that the people who brought to you by Menon, the people who wrote the Matrix do not consider themselves right wing, which in and of itself I don't have a problem with. I think if you claim right solely, you are just as silly as people who claim left solely. I think most intelligent humans would hover in their political views and do research. Don't just vote for a guy with a blue tie because you don't like the guy in the red tie. Actually figure out what these motherfuckers stand for and see if they represent you. Right? But Hollywood is notorious for being in this like extreme left-leaning bubble of naysayers and sky screamers when shit doesn't go their way. Says Spencer Bakuli, according to the Matrix Resurrections writers, Alexander Hemmon and David Mitchell, one of their many politically motivated goals when approaching the script for Lana Wachowski's latest entry in the cyberpunk franchise was to reclaim the trope of the red pill after, in their opinion, it was kidnapped by the right wing. Yes, the saying red pilled is not necessarily a red right wing thing, but it mainly it represents a bursting of the illusion. It's like you thought this, you found out some facts, here's your red pill, let's get on with life. Except these people want to conflate that red pilling with the right because red is right and there's elephants involved somehow. Hemon, the author of the Lazarus Project, and Mitchell, the original book author, Cloud Atlas, who the Wachowskis brought to life. Cloud Atlas with the weirdo Tom Hanks movie, right? Revealed the political lens through which they wrote The Matrix Resurrections during an interview with the AV Club, given in a promotion of the film's release. Opining that Resurrections is so much more specific in its aims and a very personal film that touches upon real world topics, and that should be enough indication for you right there. Cambridge Analytica, precursors to the metaverse and social media radicalization. The AV Club staff reporter Matt Shimkowitz asked a pair of writers if said topics were things they were talking about while writing the film. Okay. So, and I don't really have to go this far into this article for you guys to realize what's going on. There is a pull quote about 2019 in specific. Yes. So with this movie, and this is quoting Hemon, we too were deeply embedded in the time, early 2019, but we're also thinking about the future. And I had to catch up with them on that. Okay. Early 2019. Now, 2020 was the big fucking election year. So 2019, a lot of these people, these Hollywood people, were shitting themselves because they had to get rid of Trump any way they could. Now, think what you want to about Trump. Okay, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for, but I am saying that somebody who is so reactionary to something that they did not enjoy happening politically, that they would take a franchise in a reboot happy Hollywood atmosphere and tool it into something of a political manifesto. Now, not only that, here we go. Decepticon King, hail sir, hail the CJH. Right on, right on. This Matrix thing, and I'm only saying this because I kind of have to get along to there's Doogie Howser right there. This Matrix thing is gonna say it better in this one. I had a couple of Matrix articles. I guess we'll have Keanu. This is from the Hindustan Times. This Matrix is an exercise in meta. Okay, now I'm not talking about the new Facebook. No. What I'm talking about is there are three writers primarily. Lana Wachowski, this and these other two people who are making a film about themselves using characters that we're all familiar with. And it has to do with their strange sense of alienation. It has to do with their concept of, well, I thought we were going to change the world, but nothing happened. Well, the world's changing, no doubt about that. But did it change into something that you preferred? You know, it's kind of like the revolution they wanted to have happen didn't go the way that they intended it. So they're going to show Dopey Neo, and they're going to show uninterested Trinity. They're going to show a weirdo version of Morpheus. Nothing's going to happen the way you want it to, because somebody else was talking about this, The Last Jedi. Okay. You want this to be the Matrix from 1999. It's not going to be that. It's going to be Luke Skywalker. Jake Skywalker, excuse me, all over again. Now, at this point, at this juncture in my life, I have not seen this movie. I don't really particularly want to see the movie. I feel like I'm going to have to kind of watch it, though, just so that I could have a right to talk about it critically. And I know it's not going to be my Matrix. Okay, The Matrix, when it came out in 1999, blew my fucking mind because it said a lot of things about humanity and about spirituality and about martial arts and the internet and just all that kind of shit. But it even like the Reloaded and whatever, the Revolutions, those were off the mark too. And it's because the writing staff, the fucking writers and the creators got more and more meta about their creation. And they want it to be symbology and metaphorical, as they kind of do the Terminator with Yu and Ping Kung Fu in it. But it's going to fall off the mark because less and less people are going to be able to relate to this Hollywood bubble that's becoming increasingly small. And it's even funnier because if you read these articles, they have named their little writing nucleus the pit. They have literally given a name to the bubble that they write inside of. And they don't care about subverting expectations. They mainly were concerned about the studio releasing a Matrix sequel that had nothing to do with the people who created it or wrote it. Now, I'm not saying I would have rather seen that movie. I think it's kind of bullshit when studios do that because that's getting into like Terminator franchise type wrongness. I'm not saying that Warner Brothers should do that without the Wachowskis, but what's happening is you're having the creator who has had fucking 30 years to think about this movie that they made, walking through life, undergoing a very physical and a very emotional and a very psychiatric, is that the right use of that word? Psychological transformation. Okay. Now, this isn't me shitting all over trans people. Okay. Trans people have some very real concerns and all that kind of stuff. But the type of reality that they encounter does not well translate into a mega blockbuster because not everybody has those feelings. A very specific minority can relate to those sorts of issues because not everybody wants to go and have their bodies altered because they feel like they're in the wrong thing. The less the mainstream is able to relate to these sort of things, the worse your movie is going to perform, especially in a week where it has to go up against Spider-Man, an excellent movie, which I will happily go over after we're done talking about the Matrix. But then I start thinking like, okay, I get it. If the Wachowskis felt like a female inside and they went through all the counseling and all the hormones and they lived as women for a couple years before they finally surgically changed their bodies, that's one thing. But how do they get somebody like Keanu? How do they get the band back together? You know, are these things that these actors also believe in? Or are these things that are just kind of part and parcel with the dump truck full of money? You know what I'm saying? We got the CJH. I have opinions about Trump lately after his vaccine comments and seeing old Illuminati cards about him. I'm skeptical and I think he's a puppet, but I'm Canadian, so my opinion means squat. Well, to that I'd say a foreigner's monocle on the American political process can yield some topics for discussion. Sure. Was Trump perfect? No. He was a player who was outside the system. He wasn't necessarily the smartest guy in the room, but he surrounded himself with people who knew how to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. And I don't think he is as bad as the left makes him out, but I also believe that there were better choices during that presidential campaign. It is what it is. Trump was the president. A lot of people didn't like it. He's not the president now. Biden's the president. I don't like Biden. But it's like, what can I do? I'm just going to talk about what I believe in. And the things that are universally humanly correct oftentimes fall outside the political system. Because it shouldn't be that hard to codify the golden rule, right? Don't fuck with me. I won't fuck with you. I'll help you if I can, as long as it's not going to destroy my family, right? But then it's like, how do we deal with evil people? We'll ask Frank Castle how to do that. At any rate, this new Matrix movie, I foresee, is not going to go over well. Especially when you have movies like Ghostbusters, Afterlife, and you have movies like Spider-Man, No Way Home, who successfully do the same thing that Cobra Kai is doing. Okay, you can't take a beloved franchise and pour a bunch of piss and lemon juice all over it and say, well, that's stinky and stupid anyway. Here's the latest entry that is depressing, and yeah, you're a racist. Okay, bye. Okay. Shit's depressing. So that's my call on the Matrix. We're going to move on now to something happier, something that's guaranteed to lower my blood pressure. We're going to talk about the big ticket item, Spider-Man No Way Home. I went and saw Spider-Man No Way Home. I took my, well, he's basically my stepson. Okay. My girlfriend's 9-year-old son, I woke him up and I was like, hey, you know what's going down, right? Spider-Man. Spider-Man is happening. We have to go see it. And he's like, right on, let's go. Okay. I had heard, now I stayed away from spoilers, but when hardcore critics, members of the fandom menace that I know are harsh critics of entertainment, of product, when they are saying that they were moved emotionally, okay? Now I'm talking people like Mark with a C. I'm talking people like Jeremy Griggs. You know, I'm talking about people like Nerdrotic. You got these guys going out there, people like Ryan Kennel. Okay. Now, I don't agree with every last thing all these people say, but for the most part, they are very jaded critics and they don't just fall for anything. So when I hear people like this saying, go, it's a good movie, I was like, well, all right. I was going to go anyway because of my channel. But now that I actually might go and see a good movie, you know, and it's always a good sign too when you can't find tickets anywhere. You go to Fandango or something for something like The Eternals, and I want to spit that fucking word out of my mouth, wash it down with some whiskey, sterilize it as it were. You go to look at the online availability for the Eternals, and it looks just like the online availability for Star Wars Star fucking Cruiser Galaxy Pass or whatever the fucking Power Ranger shit that they're trying to pull. You see a lot of availability, which is completely opposite of all the fluffed up hype that you hear these motherfuckers crooning from every rooftop. And you know it's artificial. You know it's artificial. But I tell you what, as a moviegoer, I tend to prefer less of an audience. Now, that's not saying that I won't go and see a movie with other people, but um, I tend to like to have my own personal showing. Maybe that sounds weird. You know, I a lot of those people that I just mentioned, part of what they liked about it was that they were having the same reactions that everybody else in the theater. But you know, I'm like one of those guys. If I go to see a scary movie, I don't necessarily want to sit in front of somebody who's going to be like, "Watch out, the bad guys in the closet." You know, um, maybe that makes me an asshole. I don't know. I'm just a humble savage. You know. Um, Spider-Man, I would say, had a slow start. Um, there we go. CJH just said it. It had terrible parts, but once it got good, it got good. Okay. I remember feeling that Tom Holland or Tim finally got his own movie. He finally got his own movie. And what do I mean by that? Um, Tom Holland was and has been a side character in every Spider-Man movie that's come out since he was unveiled in Civil War. Now, why is that? I think part of that has to do with Disney Marvel's sort of rebranding of the universe. Okay, they had a very specific thing with this Avengers leading up to Endgame and Infinity War. Okay, they had a very specific thing that they were trying to set up to move in phase 4. And in order to do this, they were trying to reintroduce Spider-Man. And this is one of the things like that historically has bugged me about Spider-Man is that there were too many reboots. It's like Tobey Maguire got his movies, and then they went on to uh fucking Garfield, and he got a couple of movies, and then they rebooted it again with fucking Holland. And it's just it's disconcerting. It's disconcerting and it's disjointed. Now, I do think that with this movie, they did a good job of connecting these incongruent movie threads. And the idea of a multiverse where all these things live together is a good way of cinching that up. But one of the uh, I guess criticisms that I have about this movie is that it took two other Spider-Men, two other Spider-Men to come in and essentially tell us why we should care for uh for Tom Holland. And I hate that because I think Tom Holland means well. He's a decent actor, but the way that they wrote Spider-Man for the millennial generation, not everything was congruent with Spider-Man's mythology. Spider-Man is a incredibly bright teen, perhaps a little bit socially awkward, who has to deal with the consequences of a death that he could have prevented, but his pride got in the way. And he had to live with the guilt of that. Okay, so he goes from having he goes from a space of taking his reality for granted to a space where he is scared to lose the people close to him, to a space where he has to grow up and be a man of his own. And all the while he's scared to death that somebody's going to discover his secret identity and put his loved ones in danger, blah, 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 blah. That's Spider-Man. I think that um, those character attributes were very much communicated throughout the first two Tobey Maguire movies. I wasn't a big fan of that whole like emo, um, Eric Foreman as Venom kind of thing. But it is what it is. As a result of all these reboots, I was not as heavily invested in the Garfield and Holland versions of Spider-Man. I'm just kind of like, well, Marvel's rebooting Spider-Man again. What can we do? But the idea of Doctor Strange, and I like the character of Doctor Strange. I really enjoyed the first Doctor Strange movie. And this is back when it was very hard to get me to go out and buy a Blu-ray or a DVD of anything. I think I had like the Wolverine movies because Wolverine is close to my heart. I saw Doctor Strange and there was something metaphysical about it that I was just like, yes. I can't say I like him so much now because Benedict Cumberbatch, it's like I know too much about the actor. So I'm really having a hard time separating the actor from the art. But the script was good enough that I was able to set that aside. But it's something that was kind of bugging me in the back of my head. Okay. I think it's interesting that Spider-Man had a problem that everybody knew his secret identity, so he tried to go to Doctor Strange to help fix. And Doctor Strange has this sort of like annoyed, like, all right, you fucking kid, you dumbass little fucking teenager coming to me with a teenager motherfucking problem. But you know what? We fought a big purple alien together, so I guess I owe you one. And it's Spider-Man's wishy-washiness. Now, this is where I think the film did good. Whoever wrote this film used the age differences of the various Peter Parkers in order to tell a multifaceted story. So this Tom Holland Spider-Man is still very much a kid, very much thinking in terms of like my friends and school and, oh my God, can I take Mary Jane on a date, go eat some hamburgers and, get on the internet with my buddy and talk about what boobs feel like or something, You had that aspect going for you. And then you had a slightly older Peter Parker, and then you had an adult Peter Parker. Okay. And we'll get more into that because I made bullet points to talk about. But one thing that I thought was really interesting is how they used J. Jonah Jameson in this movie. Okay. Jameson is is a caricature of Alex Jones. Now, if you've seen me on other Rogue Entertainment channels, like if I'm hanging out with Stephen Walton or something, you know that our buddies like to joke around. And there's people who do Alex Jones and there's people who do Fauci and all this kind of shit. J. Jonah Jameson was supposed to be Alex Jones down to the fucking like, we sell vitamins too. Whether that's good or bad, I think it was just done as a joke. I didn't see anything that was necessarily disparaging of the Alex Jones character, except for maybe that cartoon tenaciousness. They tried to apply that to J. Jonah Jameson's character in this universe. And just his function in the Spider-Man universe is to portray Spider-Man as a bad guy. And when Peter Parker's identity was released to everybody, sure, they knew it. But as time goes on, right? Doctor Strange. I really liked the idea of how he fought with Peter Parker. Doctor Strange uses magic, and he's doing these like illusionary things to fuck with Peter's sense of orientation and his equilibrium and all that stuff. And Peter Parker And this is something that I don't know that Tom Holland's Peter Parker has been shown to be, is supposed to be a genius. And when he figured out that the mirror universe was based on geometry, he spun a web that trapped Doctor Strange. That was beautiful. That was fucking beautiful. The 3D version of Doctor Strange rocks. Yeah. Yeah, I dug that. I actually went and saw the 3D matinee. It was like playing at a 12:30. So it's cool stuff. Okay. Now I think one of the goals, one of the things that they did in this movie was that they were trying to anchor the other iterations of Spider-Man, his experiences of loss and stuff. They were trying to make us anchor that to Tom Holland, because I believe that Tom Holland going forward is going to be Spider-Man, at least for a little while. It would be interesting if the other Spider-Man got some sort of what if thing that shows them back in their universes dealing with the aftermath of all this, but I don't know. So in the death scene with Aunt May, she ends up saying, with great power comes great responsibility. So she gives the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man the same sort of Uncle Ben speech that he got in the other universes. So she dies, and then that's when he has his crisis moment. And that's when the fat Asian kid was able to pull through the other Spider-Man. And they were able to find Tom Holland as he's hurting and relate their pain to his pain and help give him a reason to go forward. And this is what I think is interesting. I don't know if this was by design or if this was just a happy after effect. But because this was a Sony film, I feel that we got more of what Spider-Man used to be than we would have otherwise. Okay, now it's interesting that in the real world, Disney and Sony had to work out, the rights and the control and all this fucking shit. But this movie actually felt to me more like a Sony movie versus a Marvel movie. And so in this respect, I think that certain things were able to be allowed to happen. Now, I also have this other theory bouncing around because Jon Favreau, Mr. Happy Hogan, was featured very prominently in this movie. Not so much so that it was distracting, but just enough that I was like, all right, if Jon Favreau is involved in this and knowing how he feels about the Star Wars fandom, I know he is just as close to the Marvel fandom. And his ability to tell human stories is something that I think also probably contributed to the success of this movie. And I like that idea. I think Jon Favreau has good instincts. And I think as far as being a rich and famous Hollywood guy, he seems to be a little bit more down to earth and normal and relatable. At least I think so. Tom Holland, because he lost his Aunt May and he's raw and he's all this stuff, he decides he's going to go ahead and kill Green Goblin. But Tobey Maguire stops him. And I think that that was probably the most powerful scene in the movie. Because Tobey Maguire didn't talk. He stopped him from delivering a killing blow, and they just looked in each other's eyes. And I don't know, man. There's something. Maybe it's just something about Tobey Maguire's eyes. He can fucking say a million words with just a look. And that's why Tobey Maguire's my Spider-Man. Except when he went emo, that was bullshit. Okay. And then there's the inevitable, the thing that started the whole thing was that Tom Holland's Peter Parker was being a teenage dork. And when he finally had some loss and he had time to reflect, he realized that the sacrifice he had to make was that he had to let everybody go. I think that was a pretty good bit of writing. Okay. Now, the the one plot point that I thought we got robbed was if you went and saw Venom, you saw that Venom was pulled into the Spider-Man universe too by Doctor Strange. Now, I thought for some reason we were going to see um, Topher Grace uh, versus, Bane or something like that. But no, we got this chintzy little end credit scene, but we did see a drop or two of the symbiote stayed behind. So maybe we'll get some Venom action. I don't know. That would be cool. And the other thing, the last post credit scene was how they set up the multiverse of madness, which is something I'm looking forward to, despite my feelings about Benedict Cumberbatch. It's like, how can you be such a bitch in real life, but be such a good Doctor Strange? And maybe it's just that thing where like English people reading a script sound different than, I don't know. But a good movie is a good movie. I can't say it's flawless, but it's a good movie, and I think it deserves every penny that it earned. And the larger thing, the thing that I think is more culturally relevant, is the fact that we have Cobra Kai, we have Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now we have Spider Man No Way Home. Now, all these three things did the same thing, but it's kind of like an exponential uh, experience. Okay, you have Cobra Kai, who have consistently for years honored the mythology. Yes, it had diversity and all that shit, but it was not being beaten over our head uh, with a sense of guilt, with that sense of primal urgency that the SJWs want you to live inside of as you consider your life. It's a good show with good characters and pretty good writing within its own universe. Like the writing in that show respects the physics of the history and all that kind of stuff that came before it. Ghostbusters Afterlife does the same thing. Now it's interesting that these two movies came out towards the end of the year, but Ghostbusters, if you scale it to the amount of money they spent and how long it was in the theaters and all that stuff, I think the Ghostbusters people knew that Spider-Man was coming through, so they better get done what they were trying to do. Ghostbusters made money. Ghostbusters had a good heart, a good story, and it's going to live on as the sequel that should have been. The only people who are going to be squawking about and no offense, Parrothead. The only people who are going to be squawking about Ghostbusters Answer the Call, Ghostbusters 2016, are those people who have a political axe to grind, because that movie was completely unmemorable. And then Spider-Man comes out, and in its opening week is the second highest grossing movie of all time. And it's only behind Avengers, right? That says something. Now, other channels has spoken to this point, but this whole, well, it's COVID and people can't be bothered to get out and blah blah blah. I'll tell you what I did, and I'll see if it makes sense to you. I know that my time is precious. I know that my money is valuable, and I'm not going to go to a movie theater to spend $15 on a ticket and then $15 on snacks, and then multiply that by however many people I'm bringing with me to see drivel or to see shit. And especially if it's made by studios who want to talk down to me because of my race or my gender or my age. You're not going to get my money by taunting me that way. But if you tell a good story, okay, and criticisms aside, okay, sure, maybe they brought in these other Spider-Men to give value to this current Spider-Man, but I think that that is something that happened organically. And I'll tell you what, it worked. By the end of the movie, I did care about Tom Holland. And I did appreciate the journey that he went through. And I appreciated how they used the villains creatively to tell that story. It just didn't seem like I don't know, like the Schumacher Batman movies when they just threw in 3 villains just to have 3 villains because they're trying to do something stupid. They're trying to show tits on the bat suit or whatever. There is a danger for that sort of thing happening, but this film did not fall victim to that common ploy. This film has heart. I liked it. I think it sends out a real message about what consumers actually want. And I don't know if all the woke shit's gonna suddenly die. Obviously, we got this fucking Matrix movie to choke back. But I do think that there is a good chance that the pendulum will be swinging correctly for once. My name's Immortal Coil. Thanks for joining me tonight. Here's to us. What's like us? Not a goddamn thing. Stay savage, my friends.